Hi everybody. Two things I want to share with you. One, this is the soundtrack that I was talking about in a previous video. And I'm sorry I all of a sudden developed dropsy. That's this. This is the soundtrack for Forever Night that I mentioned before. Now, that said, I'm sorry it took me so long. I started in the Halloween video montage, which I'm going to add this to, of course. I'm going to now talk about, some more stuff about one of the books that's written about Bobby Mackey's. It would be this, Hell's Gate. It's written by Douglas Hensley. I know I mentioned this previously, but, the fact that there was a book, this particular book written about it and a few others that mention it, well, this one's actually got, the interviews with people. This Douglas Hensley fella actually interviewed, Carl, the maintenance man, and Janet Mackey, who's Bobby Mackey's wife, and stuff. It's an interesting book to read, but it gets kind of, in a word, strange, just because it talks about the haunting in depth at some length that I'd rather like to forget. But I want to show some of the pictures on here. For example, this is what the front of the building looks like from across the street where that gas station used to be. The only reason why I know it was a gas station is I've lived in this area my whole life, and my parents bought gas at that gas station. In fact, I think we were the last people that ever bought gas from them, as a matter of fact. And if you watch my video going past Bobby Mackey's, I think is what it's called. It's got Bobby Mackey's in the title. You'll see it as Tony and I are leaving from Monmouth and either 7th or Monmouth and 8th, or it's like that block there that the Dixie Chili's on. And I'll tell you what, you'll see, this is the north end of the building, that's the south end of the building. The only reason why I know that is because, like I said, I've lived in this area my whole life, and I've gone past this building enough times to know this is the north end, this is the south end, and this is Route 9 across the street. So, if you watch, when Tony and I get onto York Street in that video, as we go home, you'll see we get on York Street, which is part of 27. We go straight past 8001's Elementary and we turn right. Well, I know it's kind of real sunny in one part of the video, and we're sitting at a red light, and I make a comment about there's a junkyard in front of us. Or I make a comment about a junkyard being there. What you'll see us do is we'll kind of go right into the sun, towards the sun, and then we'll turn left, and you'll see a train trestle bridge over us, and then we'll come out on the other side, and you'll see us go over a bridge, and you'll see Bobby Mackey's on the right, and that old gas station on the left as we're coming down the hill. Well, this building, I will not kid you, looks like it wants to fall in on itself. It really does. I mean, when you see that video, you'll see what I'm talking about. And the Licking River runs right behind this and that junkyard that I was just talking about. But, and here's a neat thing. This right here, the Stairway to Nowhere. I mean, seriously? This is taken down in the basement. I know enough about the place. I've seen enough videos and stuff. You can't get me in there. I've seen enough videos and stuff to tell you that the top of this staircase is blocked off. So it literally leads to nowhere. There's no door at the top. Bobby Mackey's used to be owned by this guy here, Ernest Buck Brady, the way it looks now. It used to be also a meat packing plant. But Buck here owned it back in the 30s and 40s and maybe 50s. And I'm going to talk about Buck some here, and then we'll get to, the incident that I mentioned with Alonzo Walling, Scott Jackson, and Pearl Bryant. But I mainly want to talk about Buck first, and then we'll talk about them. What it is, Buck owned it during the heyday of, the gambling and everything, when Newport, Kentucky was actually known as Sin City. Well, to be honest with you, Buck, part of the reason why it looked like Buck was committed suicide is because the mafia wanted him out, and he told them to take a long walk off a short pier. if you know what I mean. He basically told them, no, and bite me. Well, Buck owned a dog. You might have heard me mentioning about there's a good guy ghost and his dog in Bobby Mackey's, or that there was at one point. That would be Buck and his mutt, because Buck owned a dog. And they say that he and his dog were murdered, or that he committed suicide and the dog was murdered or something, or killed. And I mean, it's like this big, you know, blowed up story. Yeah, there's like a couple of different theories on what exactly happened to him. Mainly it was that he committed suicide. Some people don't agree with that, and they say that he was murdered, but it was made to look like he committed suicide, so they think it was suicide. I don't know, I don't care. But either way, the guy is now deceased. That's the bottom line in my opinion. Well, from what I understand, Buck was a good guy, and he, you know, ran the bar. There's also, Joanna, and she worked there. I'm trying to think. She worked there as a singer or a dancer, or I don't know what. She worked there. Her dad worked there too. I forget his name, but he, from what I understand, was meaner than a rat in a tin outhouse. And Joanna killed both him and herself because Joanna was pregnant with a guy named Robert's baby. And, you know, put it this way, Joanna's dad didn't want Joanna hanging out with Robert. This is not to be confused with Bobby Mackey. Although Joanna had the hots for Bobby Mackey because, you know, she thought that Bobby Mackey might be Robert back from the grave. I have no clue. I mean, I thought that was a wee bit odd. But Joanna killed herself and her father and lost the baby. So, well, that aside, I want to pause here because I want to talk about, you know, the murder that figures in at Bobby Mackey's that's got to do with Pearl Bryan, Alonzo Walling, and Scott Jackson here, okay? Hang on and I'll be back, okay?